Hey guys, I think I'm live now, and welcome back to Diagnosing United. We've just seen Manchester United beat Brighton by 3 goals to nil after, I'm going to say, a cagey 90 minutes. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. You know, Brighton had their moments where they were threatening towards the edge of the box, but we didn't see the onslaught that we saw at the weekend. I thought the rotated 11 did well and kind of just about controlled the game enough, or controlled the midfield enough so that we were able to have a decent sort of base to work with. And once we'd done the hard yards and finally made the opening via the free kick for the first goal, we then saw United open up and be a bit more expansive as Brighton came onto us, and we got a much needed 3-0 result in the end. A couple of important goals in there as well. I was really happy to see Juan get a goal, and of course Paul Pogba in with a free kick at the end. Let's have a look at some of these stats. So I'm just going to read these out. It was pretty even, 12 shots to Brighton and 10 shots to United. So there were shots going off, but I think a lot of the Brighton shots were from further out. You know, they were pot shotting from outside the area much more than United, who had 6 on target as opposed to Brighton's 2. So I think we just about shaded it in the final third. And obviously in these kinds of games, the final third is where we need the extra little bit of quality, extra bit of nous and know-how to get these kind of games over the line. It's something that we weren't quite at the races with. On Saturday we played Brighton before. I think we had some issues getting the cohesion and the legs into midfield to get the chances correctly through to our forwards. But as we saw today, the forwards that we did even play were able to have that extra bit of quality and finish off chances. We saw a really good chance in the first half for Odion Ighalo. Nice little touch around the keeper, but you saw the space being made by the likes of Dan James, who, you know, didn't have the best game on the ball, but his off the ball movement was really good. And it's something that I brought up not so long ago with a friend actually, about the difference, because he's in Pakistan, so he watches the games on TV, and I obviously am lucky enough to live much closer and go to the home games. So there's some times where you notice players like in the Mourinho days, for example, Rashford and Martial were making loads and loads of runs, but they would never get found by the midfield because the midfield wasn't playing that expansive kind of game. Now, this has obviously changed with the introduction of Bruno and Pogba becoming more and more of a force since Ollie's come in. But similar sort of thing happened today, I think, where we had Dan James making some good runs off the ball, and he wasn't quite getting the ball played into him correctly or quick enough. I think there was a couple of times where he either got caught offside or the defender was able to cover the channel. Whereas if the ball had been playing a bit faster, he would have got in there and maybe made something happen on the ball. But I was happy with his off the ball movement. So that's just something that I thought of, and you know, I think it's good to see that we have got some way of creating chances when we don't play Paul Pogba and we don't play Bruno Fernandes. And I think Donny van der Beek especially was really key in there, alongside Juan Mata. I think the two of them show their class and kind of football intelligence and movement really well there. So it's nice to see that we can put out second string side, and for the second week in a row come away with a decent result. Lincoln aren't the best team last week, but you can only beat what's on the field in front of you. Anything else interesting from the stats? Not really. I think it's all pretty average. 84% pass accuracy, and just the 1 yellow card for United and 2 corners apiece. So yeah, I think that was a pretty solid game from United. Go through the starting lineup and give everyone a bit of a rating. Dean Henderson, I thought, made an incredible save against Trossard again, who's still unable to score against United after his framework fun at the weekend. So Dean, I think he's got something that Dave doesn't have. It's maybe a command of the area in a different way, because Dave is obviously that 10 out of 10 that 10 out of 10 shot stopper, and he's obviously one of the best keepers in the world, especially when he's on his day. But I think Dean Henderson does have some different attributes. He's much more comfortable coming out and collecting the ball, a bit more physical, robust. He's got supreme confidence, and I think we saw a little bit of that today. And it's maybe one of the areas that Dave could improve on. Although, you know, at such a advanced age during his career, not like he's old or anything, but you know, he's further on in his career. Is it going to be possible for him to learn more and more new tricks and things like that if it's not that kind of a personality? If he hasn't got that personality to be a commanding goalkeeper, I don't think you can learn that. I don't think it's a learnt trait, really. But yeah, Dean, I think, is pushing Dave really, really hard, and long may it continue, because we're just going to see the best out of the both of them. And if one of them does drop off, then obviously we've still got a very, very good goalkeeper in the other person's pair of hands. So yeah, I was happy there. Centre-back pairing. Lindelof and Bailly. I think Lindelof was okay, nothing special. And Bailly was, I think, the better of the two. I think he was caught out of position slightly a couple of times, but he had the pace to get back and get back into make a challenge. And you know, there was the one instance in the first half where he won the foul after he was caught, you know, pushing up a little, and the guy got in the kind of inside left channel for them from their point of view. I think Bailly was up there as possibly one of the men of the match, you know, definitely a man of the match contender. I had an interesting thought about Victor Lindelof, actually. Having seen Eric Bailly play with Lindelof today and him play with Maguire last week, I'm now wondering whether excuse me, and I'm wondering whether Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof are almost the same player. They're too similar in that they are the playing out from the back. Obviously different physicalities, because Harry's got much more quality and much more physical, and has got that extra little bit, but they're in the same sort of mould of a centre half, in that they probably need someone who is exceptionally quick next to them to counteract maybe their sluggishness and slowness. And obviously Victor Lindelof doesn't have that strong physical presence as well, on top of having the lack of pace. So it's one of those where I wonder whether, if Maguire, God forbid, gets injured, Lindelof is the obvious replacement for that particular role within the team. And then you have the other half of the pair, which would be one of the trio of Bailly, Tuanzebe, or even Tayden Mengi, who are much quicker, more physical, and that kind of pacey sort of centre half that can do the covering job, and that can, you know, be caught out of position a bit and still manage to get back and stop the attack that way. So let me know what you think about that, guys. Do you think that Lindelof is going to end up being the second choice to Harry Maguire on that side of the defence, as in that kind of role that Maguire fulfills, as opposed to being the actual partner for Maguire? Obviously, it's to be seen who Ollie will play and start on the weekend, but for me, I think I would go with Eric and Harry. All right, the fullbacks. Who did we have? Brandon Williams and Diogo Dalot. So I thought it was solid from Brandon. I thought he had a decent game, nothing special, but he didn't really put a foot wrong either. Obviously, I think we were really, really nice and solid. I can't remember too much going wrong. I think there's one pass that was a little askew that he played across the midfield in the first or second half that maybe he should have been a little bit tighter with. Other than that, I thought Brandon had a decent game, and he kind of continues to gain experience. You know, still young, and I think he's going to grow as time goes on, and long may it continue for him, because he's one of my favourite kind of players in terms of his attitude and how he approaches the game. Dalot, on the other hand, got into some interesting positions. I saw some interesting switching of positions where Matt would move into the more withdrawn role, or like he was almost the auxiliary fullback as we were attacking. Sorry, I had a massive smoothie and it's just caught my throat a little. But yeah, I saw Matt kind of dropping in, and Dalot creating that overlap and overload and almost moving into the right wing area. I like that he's able to go inside and outside. That was quite useful. We saw that he had the chance in the second half, I think it was, when Donny put him through. But I do think he needs to show more. He's someone who's struggling to get a game at United. He's either, on the way out or on the fringes. When he does get a start, I would have hoped that he would show a bit more impetus, maybe. I do like him as a player. I just wonder whether he's the right fit and the right technical capabilities for what Ollie wants from a right back. He's definitely got talent though, so it is a little disappointing to see that he doesn't kind of impose himself a little more on the game. And he's not hugely better than, he's not so much better going forward than Wan-Bissaka that you can say what he needs to start over Wan-Bissaka and will allow for his defensive frailty, because he does get caught out of position a few, not lots and lots, but it's not uncommon to see him kind of get drawn out and leave a gap in behind. So a little bit of a mixed feeling for Dalot there, but not a bad performance overall. Just, I would have hoped for a bit more from him, especially if he's looking to get a move and trying to put himself in the shop window, or just trying to show Ollie that he's got what it takes to be someone who can challenge Aaron Wan-Bissaka for that position. Midfield, we had Scott McTominay with the goal. I thought he was decent. I thought he progressed the ball okay. He was quite safe in his passing, and I do think that he can probably improve on a little bit of his positional play, and maybe just hold his position a little better in terms of covering the centre halves. I do think the pivot of Fred and McTominay does work well together, especially if you aren't going to play someone like Nemanja Matic. I think the two of them, although neither as good as Matic in that defensive midfield role, between them they have it covered, and they have enough to be able to play forward into the forward four players, whoever's in those particular roles in that game. So I mean, they're a nice and stable midfield pairing, the midfield pairing that we saw hold us in that 5th, 6th position all the way through our troubles, through the back end, the middle end of kind of December, January. That's sort of an area where we just hung on, and then obviously when Bruno came in, we were able to shoot for 4th and ended up thankfully in 3rd. So I think there is quality there, and I think they did okay. I thought Fred was pretty poor in the first half and then kind of tightened things up as the game went on. Again, some of these performances could well be players who are just not quite match sharp. Match fitness is not quite there, even if physical fitness is okay and your running fitness, etc. Match fitness is a whole different kettle of fish. Let's just check out the streams going. So yeah, that's kind of the midfield, and then we had Dan James on the left-hand side, who I've already spoken a little bit about. I think he was pretty decent off the ball, won a few tackles. Didn't quite have the impact that we want to see from a left winger at United on the ball, though. I think he is someone who has got a place in the squad, but I definitely think it's more that kind of last 20 minutes sub on when we're 1-0 up, and then we can just say, look, you're gonna run the fullback into the corner and just do him for pace, draw some fouls, relieve the pressure, break up the game, that kind of maneuver, as opposed to him starting in a game where it's going to be cagey to start with, and there's maybe not that space to run in behind. I think he does work hard, and I think he's definitely got some talent, and he's definitely got something to give for United. I think when he plays for Wales, he's always one of their best performers, so there's definitely talent there. We just need to find the way to suit him and suit us. Again, with all these players, it's a heavily rotated side. 10 changes from the game in Saturday, so it will be interesting to see just a couple of these players in and around that normal first 11. So a little bit of rotation, playing alongside the likes of Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes. A couple of these guys can definitely slot in there and probably show a much better performance as they're surrounded by more and more quality. Obviously, the more quality there is on the pitch, the easier it becomes for each and every player. So you kind of get a little bit more leeway when you've got the likes of Rashford creating space and Martial making movements and Bruno picking up passes, you might then find more joy for someone like a Dan James or Juan Matters, etc. Even an Ighalo, if he was to sub in for Martial as the only change to that starting 11, do we see an Ighalo who gets more chances and maybe scores more goals? That's something to think about. And he's obviously a bit more physical than Anthony Martial. I'll do Ighalo now that I'm speaking about him. Again, mixed bag from Ighalo. He's much more physical than Martial, and you can see that, but he doesn't hold the ball up 100% of the time. Obviously, Brighton defenders are pretty large, pretty physical, classic English centre halves, although decent on the floor as well. It would be nice to see him kind of sharpen up a little there. Obviously, it's early doors in the season as well, so we'll have to see how he progresses as the season goes on, and hopefully he gets that little bit of sharpness back that we saw, holding the ball up against City, for example, for the Mctominay goal, where he laid it off to James or Fred, I can't remember who it was, and then obviously their keeper had a bit of a brain fart and let McTominay pass it in from 70 or 60 yards or whatever it was. So he's definitely got space in the squad. I think he maybe needs a couple of goals to just up his confidence and see that back from him. Mixed bag from Ighalo, but we've won 3-0 and you're not going to complain really about that, are you? Juan Mata, probably man of the match alongside Eric Bailly. You could kind of go either way with this one. The goal that he scored was just supreme confidence and composure to dummy and wait for the keeper to kind of root himself and then just play it through the defender's legs. He created numerous chances, the one for Ighalo in the first half. Nice touches all around the pitch. Obviously, we know that he's not got the pace anymore, but he was able to use clever movement for the first goal to win the foul. Took the free kick as well. Whipped it in. McTominay got in the end with a really nice header for the first goal, which kind of opened everything up for United. So probably on balance, United's best player on the night. And then we have Donny van der Beek, who is going from strength to strength for United since coming in from Ajax. I think he's going to start to push for more minutes in the Premier League. You can see he's got obvious quality. His fitness is right up there. He's got a very much different sort of way of attacking, and he's very, very proficient in his numbers. I think there's a lot of chance creation around Donny van der Beek. He made the goal for Juan Mata. He made a good chance for Diogo Dalot, who maybe fluffed his lines a little bit on the shot. But he's definitely got quality there, and he creates in a different way to some of the other players that we have. Whereas Bruno is very, very much all action and kind of pacey sort of passing. Donny's all the little flicks and touches and just deft kind of movement to maneuver himself in the right positions to get passes out and pick up pockets of space in and around the defence to cause them issues and make them make mistakes and make choices and open up gaps for other players. So I think he's been a really, really astute buy for United, and we're hopefully going to see more from him as time goes on. I think he's got a real connection with the likes of Lingard and Mata from what I've seen. I think they've got that similar kind of way of playing football, quick touches, 1-2s, opening teams up by stretching them, by moving the ball fast, and it's something that I was really, really happy to see. You could see the confidence between the interplay between Mata and Donny all game, basically, every time they were playing in between each other. Really, really nice to see. Substitutes. So we had Marcus Rashford. I think he's obviously always a huge game changer. You can see the pace that he brings in, a different way of causing issues towards a back line. You could see them being harried as soon as he came on. He's winning the ball high up the pitch, forcing errors in a different way to what Odion Ighalo was doing. He also picks up the ball and can beat players one-on-one, which is a skill that not many have, and he's so confident. And hopefully, as we see him regain his fitness, we'll see possibly one of the most potent attackers with the ball at his feet and scoring goals in the league. So yeah, decent game from Marcus. He only had 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was when he came on, but not a bad showing. Then we had Paul Pogba playing in the 10 role to start with, and then moved back to the 6 after Fred, I think it was, came off. For Lingard, and I thought it was a good idea to put Pogba in the 10 role to start with, just to get his legs into the game. And we saw him being leggy, and he's come back from coronavirus over the last couple of weeks, so he's not going to be up to full fitness, and you could see him not quite 100% at the races, but much more sharp than he was on Saturday, much magnitude more sharp than he was last week against Crystal Palace. So hopefully, as time goes on and he just recovers, we'll see the heights that Paul's capable of. And you saw with the goal, yes, it had a little bit of a deflection, but it was a venomous kind of shot. And sometimes when you're shooting, you just deserve the luck. And the point of a free kick is to get in the back of the net, and it went in the back of the net. So I was really happy to see that, and you can kind of see what it meant to him and the rest of the team. He's the kind of guy that if he's happy, I think the rest of the team is just buoyed by his presence and his enthusiasm. So really, really important for him to get off the mark with a goal. And hopefully we'll see more and more from him. Then we had Jesse Lingard, who was the final substitute. Really happy to see how Jesse's playing this year. It's been a couple of games so far, but against Aston Villa in the preseason friendly, he and Donny were the kind of bright lights. Same again last week against Luton. He was probably my man of the match. And today when he came on, he was full of energy, industrious, playing 1-2s, good skill to chop in here and there as well, and almost scored with a shot from the inside right with his left foot, actually a weak foot shot, which would have been great if it had gone in. And I'm happy for him to have a pop, even though there were a couple of options, because as we were 3-0 up at the time. So got high hopes for Jesse this year. I think if we can see some issues from his personal circumstances resolved, we'll maybe see the top level performance that we saw under Jose coming back, because he was really good when Ollie first came in, and things did drop off after the World Cup. So I'm hoping it was just a bit of a World Cup. When did he drop off? He dropped off, when everyone dropped off in and around that Liverpool game, when everyone got injured in Ollie's first season as caretaker. So hopefully we'll see him, get back to the heights that he's capable of. And I've been thinking recently that actually, he came in around the same time as Martial, the same time as who else was Rashford in that same year, because he'd been out on loan. He was a scrawny young teenager and until that point, so it took him a long time to mature. So maybe we need to look at Jesse in a different way to other 27-year-old players, in that he's only been playing top flight football for 3 or 4 years. And you see players of his kind of frame. I'm thinking people like Jamie Vardy. Vardy's come into the Premier League. What's he, 32 now? Let me check that. Jamie Vardy. He's 33 now, so I mean he's been in the Premier League for maybe 4 or 5 years, so it's not before 28 that Jamie Vardy's been in the forefront and one of the top strikers in the Premier League, and he's a very slight guy. I think it's going to be something similar for Jesse. I think he's going to go on for a fair number of years due to his industrious nature, his supreme fitness, and the late entry into top flight football. He's been on loan a couple of times to the likes of Birmingham, etc. And I think we should see some interest at Birmingham, Leicester as well, I think. So I think we should see some interesting kind of longevity from Jesse. So it may well be that we maybe need to think of him in a different light to the average 27-year-old midfielder, as he's not quite the same because his career has taken a different path. Let me know what you think about that, guys. It's just something that I've been thinking about, in terms of his longevity and how long he can go for as a pro. Obviously, he's got some quality there. We've seen that he was England's best player at the World Cup. So hopefully he'll regain that form and fitness. What else? I think that's pretty much everything. I'm just happy with the win. I'm happy with how we got the win. I thought we were really solid and stable, and we didn't really have too many moments of worry. There's the one save from Dean, and that was around about that, you know, one shot from outside the area which he fumbled and then gathered at the second attempt, which is fine, you know, under the large amount of rain there was on the day. So hopefully we'll see this continue. Now we've got a big game against Spurs on Saturday, I think. Was it Sunday? At the weekend, and we better well show Josie up on that day. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you're new, make sure to subscribe, like, comment down below, and let me know what you think. And we'll see how things go. Hopefully, we'll see some signings over the rest of the window. Sancho updates have been coming thick and fast, and very, very much varied in their content. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, the Alex Telles deal and people talking about Ousmane Dembele. Hopefully, we'll get a couple of guys over the line and see our squad bolstered. I'll be back for a preview day before the game against Spurs, and then probably straight after the game, I'll do a post-match review. Hopefully, we'll have something to celebrate. Anyway, guys, see you later.